Crash Course Live is presented by Smash It Demolition Derbies and the 2016 Bash for Cash. Demo Derby Masters. Winter Slam 2016. Ultimate Derby and Blizzard Bash in Capital City Carnage. Scioppa Racing and ScioppaRacing.com. Reckless Abandon Derby Apparel at RecklessAbandonGear.com. And Derby Inc. Magazine. Live it, breathe it, be it, Derby Inc. This is the Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast, recorded live at the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. And now your host, Chris Markwart.
Good afternoon, good evening, welcome to the Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast, episode number 130, on deck recap of Capital City Carnage. I know there is a lot of attention right now being paid to what transpired. Huh? My levels?
It's modulating.
Is it? All right. It wasn't modulating too bad on here. I'm glad you were paying attention to that. Thank you.
I'm learning from you, Chris. Okay, I'm available to push those buttons just like you. That's my goal.
I can push the buttons. You just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm afraid of. Next thing I know, it'll be fully welded. All the buttons will be down, welded right shut. So anyway, I want to, before we get into any conversation with Ryan Songalewski, touch on how Capital City Carnage ended itself. Not so much to the direction of who won, who lost, things like that. How the actual events transpired at the end of the show, because it was made clear to us after the fact as the Crash Course podcast, who was brought in by Ultimate Derby to do Blizzard Bash the last several years and work on the Kansas Expo Center's live stream, that a number of things played out the way that aren't really representative of what Crash Course is about. For starters, I'm going to take some responsibility right there. Chad Markley was gesturing to me from the track that he wanted to come up on the show. If I told him no right there, he goes across the track. He's already upset about the situation. Then he says, well, they didn't let me on the show, and it only snowballs further. I told him to come up. At that point, when he came to the back of the studio, I met with him, and I said, Chad, if you want to come and talk about the Derby and the Derby as it played out, you're welcome to. But if we're going to come in here and start burning bridges and tearing things down, I don't feel comfortable letting that happen. Not to the point that I'm defending Ultimate Derby, not to the point that I'm defending Chad Markley, agreeing, disagreeing, whatever. It's the fact that the stakes on this level are so high. I have sunk most of my life into the last 5 years of making this thing work, and I am not going to go down that way by being accused of being biased, by being accused of being one thing or another. We try very hard to base everything that we do in fact. We try very hard to do that on every chance that we get. We went off of Facebook in the past, and we were burned by it. So in that sense, we tried to recap some things. We touched base with Chad and said, you're welcome to come on and make the points that you want to make. But I'm not going to do it without an Ultimate Derby official there simultaneously to at least address in some way so that it's two-sided. This is a little bit of a change of course for us tonight. If you remember, Chad Markley, he won Blizzard Bash. There was some questionable exchanges there, and Dustin Ingram, Team IFD, we didn't ask them about their feelings at all because, for whatever reason, we weren't doing that. We don't get wrapped up in drama, but at the same time, the points that Chad was trying to make behind that building, behind the announcing booth that we were in, were more on a grander scope than just saying, hey, I got my stick broke unjustly. We're going to be talking with him later. Ryan Songalewski, obviously being overlooked a little bit in this exchange, front to back. Getting back to the end of Capital City Carnage. While I was out there, Josh, unfortunately, was left out there. I should not have left the announce table. I know that, but I did because I wanted to catch Chad, touch base with him quick, and get back to the table so we could finish recapping what happened. While I was out there, I was cornered by a number of angry fans who wanted my opinion on the take of it because they thought I was an Ultimate Derby official. My shirt said UD, it said official under it. There was a drunken gentleman whose large finger was embedded deep in it. Chad Markley stepped in and got him calmed down, and the throng dispersed. We were able to get inside and get back to the stream, whereupon Josh had also left to find out exactly what was going on. The microphones were not muted, which when I left I should have done right away. At that point, a couple fans on either side of the glass partition that we were in were shouting across at one another, and in some very foul language bled over onto the stream. We joke about, the keeping the ticker and stuff when Ben gets wound up, or things intersperse. But if you know me personally at all, I try to be pretty positive. I try to be pretty professional, and I have a lot of passion for this stuff. We apologize for that happening. And then when we did regroup and get our wits back about us as the chaos ensued, Josh and I were there. We began explaining some of this content to everybody right then and there. And we found out that the stream had already been cut. So none of that stuff that we're touching on right now got out to everyone. We touched on a couple of the conversations that may or may not have transpired with drivers speculating on how we got to the situation that we were at. Unfortunately, we weren't heard at that point. And I don't want anybody to take that as a particular bias from Crash Course or from myself or from Josh, and not being able to follow up on those points. Finally, like I said, we immersed ourselves pretty deeply in Demolition Derby. We've been in Topeka since Wednesday night. And I didn't do anything with Demolition Derby because when we left the Expo Center Saturday night, knowing that there was other stuff going on, knowing that tensions were high, we were ready to get back to our families. Most of us had already promised family time to them. I wanted to get back to see my kids, my family, and take Sunday to get home safely on our flights. And we had to go through Chicago, which meant we were probably going to see a delay, and get back home. Now, I didn't do anything in terms of following up on results because I knew Sam was going to be busy. I was waiting for an announcement from Ultimate Derby, which other people were. And I didn't begin making phone calls to set up the show until today when I got a couple breaks at study hall. And a couple people thought that there was somehow some sort of collusion between Ultimate Derby and I, or with Crash Course, to only reveal the official results on the show. And it really irritates me because we try very hard, as I said a minute ago, to be fair, to be representative. And I know there's a bunch of varying opinions on that in some specific circumstances, probably, judging by some of the commentary that we saw on Facebook through the course of the weekend. But beyond that, I think you know that we worked pretty hard to be fair, and there certainly was no intention of impropriety in any way, shape, or form. I did talk to Sam. I also talked to Jimmy Johnson, Chad Markley, Jason Brodzinski, Ryan Songalewski, and a couple other folks by text message. This is going to be a remarkable show. We are not doing this for ratings. We do this because we love the sport. And we do this because Finger Lakes, one, thankfully lets us do it. We've got Crossroads Destruction coming up next Saturday. I'm excited about that show. This was a fun show to be a part of. And I invite you guys now, if Brian or Ben have any thoughts that they want to kind of add to this while I get Ryan Songalewski on the phone. I just want to make sure that it's clear that there's some separation there, and there is absolutely zero intention of impropriety, interpreted, inferred, or otherwise, because that's not how we do things. And if it is how things that people are taking things, I would gladly welcome the individualized conversation, because I haven't sunk the amount of money, effort, time away from my family, failures, struggles, and basically nonsense in some of these exchanges to come this far for it to end like this. The punches that we took and some of the beatings that we took and stuff for over the course of this weekend is not going to be enough to make Crash Course go away, and it's also not going to be enough to make us change the way that we do things. We had there's a lot of positives, unfortunately, that were lost out of this, and I think one of the biggest ones was the fact that we had some great conversations with Mark Klein and at Derby Tees, and a lot of, I believe, just in the conversation that we had with him, a lot of hatchets were buried. That is on the pay-per-view side of things. Obviously, there was other stuff to address, promotions-wise and Derby event-wise, but that stuff, these 10 minutes was for us to take care of our business that was left undone because of the, obviously my decision to leave the production table and subsequently the confusion with Kansas Expo Center and Kevin Frost and Phil Thompson, who subsequently ended the stream prematurely. You guys have anything that you want to add to that?
Not really. Josh Josh addressed it earlier, did a nice job on Facebook. Mm-hmm. Like Chris said, I mean, the four of us grew up loving Demolition Derby, and the fact that we're able to do what we do now is kind of amazing when you really stand back and think of it. I mean, I stood there watching Ben do an inspection at Capital Carnage, and I was like, Ben and I have known each other forever, and it was just so cool for me to see him there doing that and see where we've come. And we hope to continue, helping the sport to grow. I mean, there's nothing we would ever do to hurt the sport. And for anybody to think anything like that, it's an ignorant thought. And anybody that knows any of us or has ever talked to us, they wouldn't think that or feel that way.
But the only thing I got to add is once again, sum it up in my own words, because I don't like long words, so I'll just use simple words and shit. But it's we do this not to help ourselves. We do this to help everybody. We do this to bring this to everybody, so they have the opportunity to see the things we're seeing. We come back, we talk about these things, so people can actually, hear about the things we've seen that didn't have the opportunity to be there. And straightforward. I mean, I'm about the most unbiased person there is. If I show no favoritism, I could give a flying shit who it is. And Brian knows me, and several people know me on an inspection standpoint of view. I don't give a flying shit who you are, what your name is. I call it like it is. So I'm not biased in any way against anybody. I tell it like it is, and everybody out there will agree with me. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. Whether it's right or wrong, it's the United States, freedom of speech. But you can tell me what you think, but don't get pissed when I tell you what I think.
I know.
So get on with the show. Otherwise, I'm going to start swearing.
Well, we don't want that. We don't want that, because I anticipate there's probably a lot of people that are watching this. This is a hotly contested topic. Bringing in now the winner of Capital City Carnage, well-deserved, Ryan Songalewski. Congratulations, and the newly engaged, congratulations. That was pretty awesome.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Happy to have you on. I think that was probably the best that we've ever seen you drive. I know there's probably some folks that are a little frustrated by it, but if you look back at it, it was about every 30 to 45 seconds. In the driver's meeting, you were told that you guys had 60 seconds to make hits. They had to be aggressive hits. The ticky-tack stuff, the bumping fenders, the rubbing side doors wasn't going to count, and the clock was going to keep going. We could watch a number of the different drivers back up, sit back, select their shot, and when they took off in a hurry. I saw that you had some definite strategy with yours. You picked one of the cars, and you just dogged that guy until it got down to the last maybe 7 or 8 at that point. And I just want to say good job. There's some folks that are going to hassle you for sandbagging. And
he wasn't saying.
No.
That's not sandbagging. That's being selective. That's choosing smart shots. That's for all the conditions, taking all the conditions, into factor. Ryan's known as to be the hammer, and he actually went out and sat back and took his time and just proved to everybody that he's not just a hammer driver. He
definitely showed the caliber driver he is not.
Ryan's got the skills and showed the skills and $30,000 richer. Depending on how big the ring is.
Yeah, depending on how big the ring is.
Depending on how big the ring is, I suppose. I guess you guys have one picked out as well already, right?
Oh yeah, we were shopping prior to this. We've got something picked out, and Megan, I don't want to sound like it's a bad thing when I say that she's simple, but she's not extravagant. She doesn't need anything crazy expensive. She picked out something she liked, and I'd buy her whatever she wanted, whether it was $500, $5,000, $25,000, doesn't matter. Whatever makes her happy, because she allows me to do this, and it would be hard to find a woman in the sport that is more supportive than she is. She definitely puts as much into this as I do, so I'm very lucky that she said yes.
So, Ryan, the first question I want to ask you is, did the words, "oh shit," go through your mind when you ended up on your driver's door facing down?
No. My immediate thought was, get me the F back over.
Well, you're honest. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
For most times when I run, especially when I come up to Kansas, it's such a hard build that I try and drive the car that way. It's such a hard track normally that I come out there and drive the car real hard, and it's hard for me to have the patience that I was able to have this weekend. So when I was able to drive that way and then go up on my side, I was pretty upset with myself, and I just wanted to get back over. And the officials, I think they were laughing at me a little bit because I'm yelling at them to push the car back over as I'm reaching out the driver's window, pushing on the ground, trying to get the car back on its wheels.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise us. We saw you shaking your car violently in the feature last year at Blizzard Bash, so I could definitely see you pushing your own car over.
I thought about getting out to push it over, to be honest with you.
I have no doubt at all. And I bet you wouldn't needed any help at all.
No, not at that point.
Ryan, take me through the feature itself. I mean, you spent a lot of focus on Matt and Jesse Martin. It looked like there was a little bit of a divide and conquer. I know you chose to hang back, and for $30,000, it's hard to argue the point of knocking Jason Dials out of the spot. Jason, a great run to second place. Brett Clemens being disqualified in post-race tech. Chad Markley moving up to third place. Take me through the feature from your perspective and what it was like, because you're only out there in a very hard car for 35 minutes.
Part of my driving style actually came from the track. It's very hard for me to hear or read somebody calling me a sandbagger. And to be honest with you, if the track had been different, I may have not won for the fact that I had to adjust my driving style. Immediately from the very first hit of the first heat, I knew I'd adjust not only my car but my driving style. So when we came out onto the track, I had moved around different parts of the track, and I could tell where the hard spots were. And basically, the side opposite of where we pulled in had a hard line as well as that end. That's why I stayed at that end. I kept the rear of my car, which was the softer end, hidden as much as I could, and I'd find a car, I'd go out, make what I felt was a nice aggressive shot, do what I had to do, try and break somebody, back up in there, take a second, and look for another clear shot. That was one of the biggest issues with having that track like that, is I couldn't just fly across the track and hit whoever I wanted, however I wanted, because you had to have a plan of getting in and getting back out, because that track would suck you up if you weren't careful. And that was my biggest concern, which I'm sure you noticed Jason managed to get stuck twice because he got in one of those areas where the soft spot was. So that's part of the reason why I stayed the way that I did, which really benefited me in the end.
Yep.
Right. Absolutely.
That track ended up taking close to 30,000 pounds of powdered concrete mixed in, and then Saturday morning session with the consolation rounds, the track was left loose so that concrete would be mixed in more, and basically the three heats of action that were on the track would serve as aerators. It would get the track dried out a little bit further, and then they brought in a vibratory roller and packed the track tight, and we saw the benefits of that. Through the course of the weekend, picking up wins, Mason Larson in the advanced youth class, winning on Friday night, booked his ticket to the feature, running with the other elite class drivers. He did a nice job, nice job in the feature. Winning in the youth ranks, the regular youth ranks, Jake Long, and I believe it was his first Derby ever, and he had a Baldwin under the hood and a ski cradle in it and sponsored ride, which was pretty impressive, but take nothing away from Mariah Molman.
Was she driving them?
Bryce Molman and Chris Williams, who put on, I mean, those three were just hammering on stuff. Real good job to those guys. Congratulations. Rick Kunkel. Rick Kunkel did more than just win the stock feature. He also helped the guy, OGPD, whatever the acronym is, win the Fantasy League based on a tiebreaker.
Cool.
So Rick Kunkel winning the stock class, and then Chad Shireman in the late models doing an excellent job in there. Ryan, you guys always come with impressive cars. You had a swarm of officials on it when you were on the ramp, when they were under it, when they were over it. There was all sorts of attention put on it. What was the inspection process like for you, and how – what? I got to turn mine down again. And how close were you to even potentially not running?
Inspection was tough, but it always is for us. We expect that coming in. And to be honest, that's the reason that we run this show, is because of the tech. This is, I know there may be some controversy as the calls or whatever made, but in my opinion, and I believe I'm on the same page with Jason, we believe this is the strictest, fairest tech that we have had across the country. These guys these guys find every single thing that we push. I make it very clear that no matter what issues I have with tech, I'm not a cheater. I've never been a cheater. You could cut my car into little pieces. You would never find a piece of plate in the car. You won't find a weld ground down. There's whatever I push is right out in the open, and they know this about me. And they find it if I push something, but there's always logic behind what I do. But they find everything. I mean, if we push something a quarter of an inch, they're going to find it. So they are very fair. They deal with us. They listen to our argument. Sometimes we win. Sometimes we lose. I'm not saying I agree with everything, but as long as they're fair, that's all any driver can ask for. And I believe that they were completely fair in tech. Took us a long time to get through, but I believe that it was fair on their end and fair on our end.
We
were pretty close. We were pretty close to not getting in based on a few things. But fortunately, we were able to make the necessary corrections and got in, and then passed final retech. Well, I did.
That's true. Between your pre-tech experience and what you brought out onto the track and what you ultimately finished with, that resulted in a giant box of $100 bills being handed to you and a nice trophy and the memories of being booed to no end as you proposed to your girlfriend. Did you get anything through tech inspection that you pushed or got through that shouldn't have gotten through?
I don't believe I did. When I go to a show and I push rules, I have a backup plan for every single thing, so I know what I can do, what I can't do, and every year I think we get by with something, however small it may be. This year, I told Jason after tech, I'm like, they didn't let anything get through. I couldn't believe it. They caught every single thing that we pushed. I mean, one of the things that I thought would get through, the rule says gas tank protector must be 1 inch from sheet metal. Mm-hmm. Always an issue with people. I made sure my gas tank protector was an inch away from the sheet metal everywhere it could be. But my Watts bracket was bolted in with a 1 inch bolt, and it had a 1 inch nut holding it on, and the 1 inch nut protruded through the sheet metal, and it touched the gas tank protector, giving me my 1 inch, but I was still 1 inch away from the sheet metal all the way around, perfectly legal. And of course they saw that, and in order to see it, you had to know what you were looking for.
Ben, why are you laughing?
It's just it's funny because we ran into that problem at King's Ultra in Coos last year, and in different areas like out this way, where you're just being able to run gas tank protectors, and it's just coming in, and it's a focal point. At least for me, inspecting cars, that's being used to rules out here. That's a focal point. That was, something I look at, just instinctive look for, and so I was snickering. I was having a good time. I mean, I had a real good time. And I always have a good time out there because when you find something or you ask somebody a question about something, or why did you do this, why did you do that, it's not like they're throwing all their shit out of their hands and they want to punch you in the nose. They give you their version, their explanation of why it should be done, and quite a few of them they're real creative and they're definitely good, But yeah, I mean, I agree with Ryan 100%. I mean, if you're not continuously pushing the envelope, then you're not going to be as competitive as those guys are. And it's not just him and Jason. I mean, him and Jason are easy to pick out because it's everybody sees their cars every year and they're like, holy shit. And but every competitor there is doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. So it's, and if you're not,
that's something I want to touch on is the
go for it.
We seem to get pointed out, and I think a lot of it is because we sell parts, or we talk to a lot of people, whatever. But when you come to this particular show, or actually Blizzard Bash or anything there in Topeka, our cars are really just barely above average, if they are above average. The builders that are coming to this show now, after the past couple of years are just phenomenal. The you could walk around the pits and just be in awe. I think there's a lot of underrated people. Gage Sumner is, I believe, one of the more underrated builders. If you were to look at his car, that car was built so cleanly and so precisely. I was in awe of the job that he did. And people like that, for whatever reason, they don't always get the recognition of their build. But these guys are stepping up their game. You pull out into the feature, whether it's Blizzard Bash or Capital Carnage, damn near every car out there has got just a hammer for a front end. Guys they might not be doing the same thing as the next guy, but they're all just unbelievably hard. These guys are all using their brains now. They're not just throwing cars together or buying parts. They're sitting down and engineering the cars front to back, and it sure makes for an interesting experience for us to even compete with them.
Yeah, I mean, a prime example, as you commented earlier, I mean, the Martins.
Yep.
A lot of people seen their cars and
underestimated.
We're snickering, man, what are them? What are they going to do with that? They're not going to make the feacer. I tell you what,
they had a great showing in the feature.
They were a high focal point in the feature, because pretty doesn't always win, and that's the thing. To put you laugh and joke about it, but sometimes that's a thought process to some people.
I judged the book by its cover and did not expect them to do what they did. They did a remarkable job, and I tell you, Matt in the Burgundy car, Matt took a worse beating than Jesse did, and they finished one spot apart.
Right. Yep. They both did great.
The back of that car that Matt had was gone.
Yeah, that's why you guys always bust my balls. Oh, pick a winner. I said no, not till after I go through. I'm under that tech line and I look, because you judge a book by its cover. There, you're definitely not gonna be right.
Well, we touched a little bit on your car. How about Jason's car? Jason was found not passing post-race tech inspection after the extensive evaluation process that was put on the car before the heats. Saturday morning before the consolation round, and then again before it came back out for the feature. Something apparently got through. And do you have any feedback? Can you share anything more with us on that?
That I don't agree with the call on that one. Basically, what it boils down to is Jason and I bolted our gearboxes on using bolts that were allowed. We ended up doing it slightly different, and it was just a washer for the bolt that turned out to be a little too big. I think it was 2 inches by 2 inches or 2.5 inches. It wasn't big. I don't have the exact measurement. I didn't put it in there. There was nothing in the rules about it. No limitations. Wasn't seen before the show, as it was inside the frame when you bolted on the 03, and you cut it open and saw it, and they didn't like it. Nothing you can really do about it, I guess.
Right. Gotcha. And what are you going to do?
I mean, it was. I don't know how that call should have been made. I don't agree with it, but of course I'm not going to. It's my teammate's car. But the call is what it is, and the show's over now, and I don't like dealing with the negativity of anything, so we just let it go and we move on to the next one.
Yep, exactly.
Right.
Now, Ryan, going into it, if it would have came down to you and Jason, were you guys going to battle it out, or were you just split at 15 apiece?
We were going to battle it out. It was. It's funny you asked that. Tracy, Jason's girlfriend, asked him if it came down to us what would happen, and then later on she asked me separately what would happen, and apparently we both had the same exact answer. We both laughed and said that we would have a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been a show. I'm not going to lie. Those two cars with those two motors, you guys driving them, that would have been a good show. Yep. No doubt.
We had joked about it a little bit. Obviously, we didn't really think that was going to happen, but we joked about it and said that we would find a line where we could go from one end of the track to the other, and one of our seatbelts was going to break.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been a show.
Because it would have been.
No way we would have shut it down. We would have put on we would have put on one heck of a show had it come down to the two of us, and both cars obviously still being mobile.
Yeah, it would have been a great show.
What about the finish of it? You shoot down the track, ready to hit Chad, and they're waving you off, telling you don't have to hit them.
I had no clue what was going on, and I don't want to get into the debate of whether he should have been flagged or not, but the internal clock in my head hadn't expired yet. I was trying to keep an eye on Chad and Clemens, because those are two very dangerous drivers. You don't want to take your eyes off of either one. So when I saw Chad go to the one end, my thought was he's going down to line up a shot. So when I got the opportunity to come down there and I saw his nose out, I'm like, well, we're gonna see what's harder, the 03 or the
wagon.
So I didn't see anybody waving. I didn't see a flag until I hit him, and I back up and I see Jason waving me off and said he was done. And I had the thought that his flag was broke never even went through my mind. I'm like, did he break a transmission, break a drive shaft? What happened? But at that point, I immediately didn't care anymore. He was done, and I'm like, jumping for joy inside my car because Chad Markley's out, and in my opinion, he was the driver to beat in that feature. Chad Markley, I posted last year at Blizzard Bash, I'm like, Chad Markley is my hero. He is one of the best drivers in my book. And if he wouldn't have been disqualified, I think the outcome would have been completely different.
If I agree with Ryan, I agree with you 100% about the internal clock in your head and stuff like that, because when you're down at that point, when you realized now we're rolling, in a blink of an eye you're at 5, you're in the top 5, the blink of an eye you're in the top 4. Right then in your head, you're thinking this is go time. Whatever the most lethal threat is, you're going to go after. So I agree with you 100%. I mean, you're not going to really pay attention at that point when you see, especially like you said, when you see Chad, for an opportune shot, you're at that point in that feature, you're not going to pass it up because it's go time.
Oh, absolutely.
And
that's exactly what went through my head.
Yeah.
And in my head, I remember the position I was in. I remember him going to that end. In my head, the time that expired was really enough time for him to get down there and get turned around, and that was it.
Yeah.
But when I saw him there, I thought, this is my opportunity. So I went in there with everything that I had, having no clue that his stick was broke.
Yeah, that's in my eyes, that's kind of the conversation, that we're having on it. That's irrelevant whether it was broke or not. I mean, it's just when you get to that point, like I said, it's go time. It's time to pick out the best looking car out there and start putting shots on it to take them out. And it just worked out that that even if his stick hadn't been broke, the shot you put on him shoved the back end the back end of the frame rail was exposed, and it shoved it into the dirt berm, and he was hung up.
Yeah.
When you backed away, he was hung up after your shot. So that even if his stick wasn't broke, that one shot pretty much took him out of the equation at that point in time.
Yeah, but if his stick hadn't been broke, Chad wouldn't have had himself in that position by the time I got there. He would have moved out.
Right.
Yeah, that guy, him and Clemens both are those two guys that you just never seem like you can take out.
Clemens is a tough out.
When we're down to 5 cars and they're there, you're just thinking, how on earth am I going to take these 2 cars out, because they're just phenomenal drivers.
Yep.
And fortunately, Chad is enough of a sportsman. He was a great sport about it. I was so worried afterwards. I'm like, Chad, I didn't know your stick was broke, and he was completely fine with it. And he congratulated me on the win and everything, which really helped out a lot. My biggest issue with these big shows is I want to get out and shake hands with everybody at the end of the night. Win or lose, I want to be able to shake hands, and I want everybody to walk away happy.
Yep.
And that was part of the problem with the end of the show for me, is it still eats at me that I didn't try and push dials out of the hole. I still question whether I should have, whether I shouldn't have, and it really eats at me. I consider Jason a friend. Made a lot of friends through this sport. He's a great guy, and I knew he was going to be right down to the end. And honestly, if I hadn't had fuel problems, I probably would have, which is probably even dumb on my part. But after I rolled up on my side, I don't know if I dislodged something, but on the red flag where Sam told us we had 5 cars left, I looked down and I had started the feature with 7 pounds of fuel pressure, and I was down to just under 4. And then at the very end, I think I was closer to 3.5, so my fuel pressure was dropping. And
Yikes.
I'm like, man, if I get him out and something happens, I'm going to kick myself. So
Yep.
that's kind of where my head was at there at the end.
Ryan, I'm sure you've been swamped and busy, getting back to work and getting home from the show, but Joker actually put up a really good post about the fact that people were booing and pissed off because you didn't do that. And like Joker says, when you're in a derby and you're in a derby to win, you wouldn't knock somebody out in a $500 to win feature. So for people to think, anything against you for not knocking him out when, you're still running and moving and, there's 30 grand on the line. I mean, that's just, it's dumb to think that somebody's going to do that. I mean,
yeah. And like Ryan said, I mean, you were aware of your fuel pressure. That's the last thing you want to do is go up there,
Don't be the reason why you lose.
bump him out. And then the next thing you know, your car dies and then he just rolls forward and nerks you a little bit and takes it. I mean, you can view that every different ways. In my view, he was nosed so bad, and like Ryan said, he considers him a good friend and everything else. Like, that's about the last thing I would do. It's an unnecessary shot, and you think I personally want to – I don't really want to break – we joke all the time about breaking blocks and this and that. I mean, if he would have really backed up and really gave him a send-in shot, I mean, potentially – you're costing thousands, tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage. Right. I mean, are you out there to do that? I mean, it's a catch-22.
It's part of the game, but you don't want to try to destroy somebody's
But when
stuff.
you're down like that and all you have to do is just make contact, that's kind of one of them. It's kind of judgmental thing. It's kind of something in your mind. It's up to the individual, I should say. Mm-hmm.
That was something that crossed my mind because I don't want this to sound like I don't want it to sound bad, but when I looked at his car, I'm like, if I get him loose, I'm on the better end here because he's nosed up and he had 23s on the back with the tractor. I'm like, if I get him loose, there's a real good chance he's going to get stuck again.
Yep.
But I didn't want to get him loose, have an issue, or my car quit, or I didn't want to come in and I felt like I couldn't tell from where I was at because of the way my hood was buckled, but I felt like I was going under his bumper, and I'm like,
yeah, you were.
I don't want to go in there and destroy his equipment if I don't need to.
Yep.
It's part of the game. Yes, if you're halfway through, you do what you got to do. But when you've got friends out there and you can finish the show or take them out without destroying, their equipment, then you really want to do that.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing. I mean, with the drivetrain you have, I mean, you and Jason both. I mean, you guys would pick shots, and then it wouldn't take you much distance to get up a hard shot. So I mean, if you could have backed up 4 feet, 10 feet, something like that, and stood on it, and you still could have done a lot of damage. But I mean, again, why would anybody that was booing or was upset about that, if they put themselves in the same position, there's no way you're going to knock somebody's face.
Trey Hewer just messaged, and he took a different take on the booing. He heard it as the boos going to the officials, not necessarily going to Ryan for sitting there and not hitting Jason.
Well, I heard some of the drunken idiots on the one side of us were saying something about, he should have hit him and knocked him loose. And I really bit my tongue because I wanted to say, look, that would just be stupid.
Brian hit the nail on the head. I would say in the 90th percentile of drivers out there, they would have done the same thing you did, Ryan. So it's one of them deals where it's.
Well, I mean, you can put anything.
You got the 30 grand.
I mean,
that's
you can put anything. And anybody who you think is a great driver that you've seen run a derby, put them in that situation. They would do the exact same thing. It doesn't matter what the last name is. If you're in your hometown fair and you watch that derby every year, you know who the good guys are. They're not going to, at a hometown fair, they're not going to do it. No. Let alone something that pays $30 grand of the prestige of this show. Yep. I mean, that's just, it's ignorant. But
no, that's awesome. That's like I said, Ryan, I didn't get a chance. I wanted to make it down on the track, and I wanted to, congratulate you and shake your hand and stuff too. But definitely, like I said before, I mean, you're known as a hammer driver, and now you're known as, you don't know what side of the coin you're going to get tonight, driver.
I would, if you're betting, I would always bet on the hammer side of the coin.
Yeah.
Is there anybody?
Usually at.
there anybody else that you wanted to mention here before we let you go? Got Sam Williams coming up here next, and then we'll take a quick break. Get Sam, finish with Sam, take a break. We'll get Chad on with Sam here after that. Anybody want to make mention of before we go?
Yeah, if you don't mind me taking a moment here. I mean, obviously I gotta thank Jason. Jason and I, we've only met a couple years ago, but honestly, he's become like a brother to me, and I would not be where I'm at without him. This is as silly as it may sound. I'm not trying to talk about. This guy is smarter than most people even realize. The ideas that he has in his head, he's amazing as far as how smart he is when it comes to this stuff. And then post Mopar, Brian Nearat, Baldwin, and Joker. Those are people that we use every single race, every time we run, and they always take care of us. And I don't care who you buy from. I don't care if you buy our cradle, you buy somebody else's cradle, our spindle, whoever stuff you buy customer service. And the people I just mentioned, you won't find better customer service than those guys.
Awesome. Pretty good.
Absolutely.
Ryan, again, man, congratulations on the win. It was a good, very good run, and congratulations again on the engagement.
All right, thanks for having me on, guys.
Awesome to talk with you. Thank you.
Good one, Ryan.
All right, bye.
There goes Ryan Songalewski. We're going to get Sam Williams on the phone next, and while I do that, have a look at this.
Smash It Demolition Derbies has partnered with Crash Course for the duration of the 2016 season. Offering more than 40 shows throughout Ohio, they are the promotion group that oversees the annual Bash for Cash. Scheduled for May 27th to the 29th, the Memorial Day Weekend Classic is now 3 days long and will feature 3 main events paying in excess of $10,000 to each of 3 drivers. The DEC Header Compact run Friday night with their feature set for Sunday paying $10,000. The DerbyTees.com, Turn Back the Clock, and Big Rock near 80s and newer will also pay first place more than $10,000 in each division on Sunday night. Light trucks, youth cars, the wire class, 80s and newer wire class, full-size trucks, street stocks, and 5-foot full-size outlaws for the schedule as the show moves to its new home at the Ross County Fairgrounds in Chillicothe, Ohio. Again, that's the Bash for Cash 2016, May 27th to the 29th in Chillicothe, Ohio. For more on the Bash for Cash or Smash It's County Fair schedule, visit www.smashitderby.com.
Brodzinski and
I just wanted to make mention this weekend coming up, our first Crash Course pay-per-view is on deck. 80 Shane Classic going to pay $7,000 to win. 6th through 10th is $200 to start. Old Iron $1,500 to win. Paying the top 5 there. Open to 20 entries. The stock trucks are on the menu. You're going to see the mid-size cars on the menu. The 80s and newer rookies, it's $500 to win. Paying the top 5. Top 3 have the option of going to the adult feature. All the inspections are going to be on May the 6th. You'll get $25 back. Or excuse me, you get $50 back if you pass tech on the first try. $25 each additional tech reattempt. Call Paul Nielsen for details. 507-383-6094. Again, that's Crossroads of Destruction on May 6th and 7th at the Freeborn County Fairgrounds in Albert Lee, Minnesota. We talked about this show a couple times now. A lot of people starting to pay attention to the Caledonia Crash and Jam Festival, scheduled for July the 16th at the Livingston County Fairgrounds in Caledonia, New York. It's going to be $1,100 to win for the compacts, $350 for a second, $200 to start the feature. That's from 5th on down. Full-size features, $1,400 to win, $450 for a second, $300 to start the feature. That's from 5th on down. Junk Run is going to pay $500 to win. It's more than $7,800 in prize money. Kenny Swingle for details, 585-447-7939. Livingston County Fairgrounds, July the 16th, Caledonia, New York. Looking forward to getting that one under our belts. A lot of good cars going to be on hand for that event. Sam Williams joining us here on the hotline. Sam, I'm sure that the last 2 days have been a couple long days. I know there's some stuff that you wanted to hit on. I guess before we get any questions or anything like that, I'll offer you the floor.
No, absolutely. Hey, thanks guys for coming out. Had a good show. Definitely a challenging show. See a lot of stuff in the 10 years we've been doing this we've never seen before. Had to make some decisions we've never had to make before, and it's going to cause us to make a bunch of changes in our company. But overall, just hundreds of messages about how good the show was and how well, they felt under the circumstances things were handled. So I just want to tell everybody we appreciate all the support. But no, it was good. It was fun, and we appreciate everybody coming out. So
we had a challenge with the track, and then subsequently things got more complex the longer the day went. How hard was it to find 30,000 pounds of concrete at 11 o'clock at night on a Friday?
The first car sunk, and I turned around, and we started screaming. And the bad thing was when we pulled in there on Wednesday or Thursday, we knew that the ice was down, and we had no idea the ice was going to be down. It was a county mandated thing on the arena, and so we started brainstorming at that point. What if? Mm-hmm. They kept assuring us that the track was going to be hard. We just didn't see it. Even when we went out 2 hours before the feature, they said they had a derby car out there spinning around. It should be fine. And I said, well, what did you bump him up against? And I said, what do you mean? I said, well, a car isn't going to sink until it's up against or hung up. Well, nothing, but you guys are going to be fine. And I said, and when the first car pulled on the track, I turned around to the GM and I said, I get to say I told you so in 3 minutes. And so, that caused the issue of, what do you do with Heat 1? They had no idea what was going to happen. We didn't have any idea what was going to happen. Nobody was allowed to change their tires. So we had to redo Heat 1. Everybody else got the opportunity to change their tires. That's why we redid the Heat 1 that night. Like I said, everybody else got to go back, put on straight treads, do whatever they had to stay up on top. I think Heat 1 lasted a total of, 40 seconds maybe. Mm-hmm. And so at least as everybody else got to prepare, they got a little bit longer runs, they got a little bit longer heats. Still just an absolute disaster. But no, we dumped 3 pallets of concrete right after the third heat, started to stiffen it up, and we formulated a plan to how do we get a hard track feature, and we followed it all the way through the weekend from that point on. We never went to bed from Thursday night on because Friday night we were out there dumping concrete every hour and a half so that the little tractor could keep working it in. We called it good at 6 o'clock in the morning, went back and showered and started over on Saturday. So it came around well. We definitely just, your heart sinks when you see the car sink. We've never seen it in that building do that. Right. And so we've seen it at county fairs. Nothing I could do there. But we refused to just say die. So we started to scramble.
Take us through what happened after the features were over with.
Yeah, first of all, I want to go clear back to the start of the event. I got a list of stuff that we dealt with this weekend. The raffle car. Let's start back with the raffle car. So, Mr. Phil Tompkins out of the arena calls me 2 days before April 1st and says, we have an opportunity to put a car in the mall. And I said, okay, great. I said, when does it need to be there? It needs to be there April 1st. And I said, oh, my God, dude, that's in 2 days. I said, I don't have a car. So we started calling all over the place. We called Daryl Monroe and a bunch of guys down there from the Kentucky show where they got stuck down there. We knew a ton of good cars were down there. We started calling out some of those guys. These were $20,000, $30,000 cars. Collier Motors, great stuff. And I just said, oh my gosh, I can't spend that kind of money. And so I talked to Dawson Johnson. He said, hey, Mike Brown's got a car. He's got his Blizzard Bash car. It's legit. Let's go. It should work. So I worked a deal with Mike, bought the car. In our rules, you can't restub for capital carnage. I'm not even going to say the car was cheated, but the car was restubbed in a place we were unaware of. The reason we didn't have an inspection, I picked it up from Mike at 2:30 in the morning. We brought it back down. We brought it to my house, cut out the list that we knew about, didn't even put it on a lift, and 10 hours later it was headed to the mall. So that's how that transpired. It was not intentionally to deceive anyone. We would have sold a ton of raffle tickets off that car, and trust me, I would have much rather put that in my pocket than the amount of drama I dealt with by doing the right thing. Drivers all said, hey, let it run. We don't have a problem with it. We showed them what we found. They said they didn't have a problem with it. And again, it's a perfectly legal for us county fair car. You can restub in county fairs. It will go to a county fair, no problem. But it just for this event, the rule is no. And I said, guys, if you would have done it at our show, we wouldn't allow it to run. I can't in good conscience let it run. So trust me, it was not to intentionally deceive anyone. It is the rule, and how can I hold my drivers to a standard that I won't even hold myself to? So that's what happened with the raffle car. The dirt, we talked about that. Redoing Heat 1, talked about that. Mm-hmm. Going into the feature.
Yep.
Well, first in the drivers' meetings. The first night of the drivers' meeting, we had 3 different drivers' meetings. We mentioned it. I know at 2 of the drivers' meetings we had it, mentioned it, and how the plates work. For our derbies, you get a 6x6 by 8 inch plate. In the past, we've always made drivers tell us or show us where the car was bent in order to repair it. But we decided to take a little bit different approach with this derby, and we said, here's the deal. We don't care where the plates go. You put them on the car you're choosing. Body, frame, we don't care. Tie in your motors, we don't care. Guys are going to have different damage in different areas. So we said, put your plates where you want to put them. But because we're not controlling it, it is a half-inch weld around, 1 inch in between the plates, including your weld. And we said it 3 times in the one driver's meeting. And I said, if there's a reason we're going to load cars, it'll be over these dumb fix-it plates. I promise you. Follow these rules. So what we do is we close down the building after the repair time. We close down the building, and we kick everybody out of the building. And we just take a visual inspection quick of the cars. Last year, I think we had to tell a couple cars they couldn't run the next round because things we found during this visual inspection. It is not a full-on inspection. We don't take them to the hoist. We just do a quick once around. If there's anything just that isn't within the rules, we know is going to get disqualified after the Derby. We're going to ask them not to run so they don't ruin somebody else's car, knowing they're going to be disqualified anyways. So we did our quick visual inspection, found a few issues on 3 different cars. Brought our techs in, looked at them, measured, and it was outside of the half-inch weld. Not far, but it was definitely outside the half-inch weld. The violations were anywhere from 1/4 of an inch outside on each side, which is nearly half an inch, to a full inch and 1/4 of weld to extend these plates. And every one of these plates, every plate on the car was legal except for these that mattered, and these were in spots that mattered. And at this point, not knowing it, we found out why Demolition Derby has got one issue that we're working to fix now. In Demolition Derby, we have either you're illegal or you're not, either you're running or you're disqualified. That's the only rules there are. So to us, we gave the warning. Our techs were in the building all day if they had a question to come find us. At 3 o'clock, you're not allowed to do anything mechanical, no torching, no welding. Your car must be ready to take the track. In our mind, there's no time to fix. We got really hard and fast with this rule. There's one area I could fix today. I would probably pull all the drivers in. And because I'm going to say it was a minor violation, but it was a dead violation. It was the right call, but I'm not so sure it was a good call. And so if I could do it over today, I would pull in the 3 drivers, pull in all the rest of the drivers, and give them 3 different choices. Your first choice is to cut the extra weld that is needed, but isn't legal. Cut the complete plate off the frame, including the weld that isn't legal, or load the car. You drivers choose. And I would have done it in a private vote because it puts the drivers in a very awkward spot, and we've never done a driver vote on anything. So, but I had an official tell me a bunch of years back, I had something on my car that was questionable. And the official walked up and asked, or the promoter walked up to the official and flat said, "Is that a $16,000 weld?" The official said, "No." And he goes, "Then what are we talking about? Let him trim it." And that should have been the attitude I had. Is that a $30,000 weld? And instead, we are saying we've just been hammered for not following the rules. I've been yelling at my guys, like Ryan said. It's one of the best inspections he's been through. Why? Because I told these guys I am tired of missing stuff. I'm tired of looking stupid. I'm tired of everybody after the show going, "Do you know what you went through? Do you know what you missed? Do you guys know anything?" So we took the other approach. And what we're going to try to come up with is a penalty system. If you get caught speeding, you don't go to prison. You have a penalty. And so that's what we're going to start building is a penalty system. If you do X or X, you lose this much of your prize money. And maybe that percentage goes to charity or whatever it is. It's not staying in my pocket because I didn't earn it or deserve it. But they have to have a penalty, but to load them is crazy. So just so everyone knows, C.J. Barnes, Cordell Hansen, Teddy Papadopoulos, and Brent Clemens, I apologize for not handling that situation better. I know it affected you, and you had as good a shot at winning that $30,000. Every one of these cars were unbelievable. But we missed it. The reason Brent ran was we did not, in the visual inspection, catch his plate because of the way it was folded and different things where the 1-inch weld wrapped around. It wrapped around back towards the frame, and we didn't see it till post-inspection. So that was our fault with Brent. But they were all for the same exact thing. Nothing cheated, just the weld was carried a little bit too far. So that's what happened with that. And again, we're trying to get a system. It frustrates me every year. Is we put on a great show, we bust our tails, and Ryan was talking about how much time and how much money, and Chris, you were talking about how much time and all the sacrifices you guys have made. We're 10 years into building this company.
Absolutely.
And at this point, we don't want to screw the drivers.
Right.
We don't want to be the outcome of the show. We have to find a system that's fair, but yet is put out there so everybody knows what the system is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I tell people all the time, I can play the game if I know what the rules are. But the rules are continually changing. It's a problem. And the rules in Demolition Derby are changing every day.
Sure.
Our rules change every year. We sat down with 21 drivers. Said, guys, help us come up with a set of rules that don't change for 5 years. I'm tired of this. Let's come up with rules. Our plate rule, I promise you, will be posted everywhere next year. Mm-hmm. Driver said, man, we just didn't hear you. Even though we asked, does anybody have any questions on this? This is a biggie. So it's one of those things that we have to, if we're going to hold drivers to this kind of standard, and we're going to hold drivers to the point of saying, hey, we expect you to be at this level, I have to meet them there. So they have to be informed, they have to know what the rules are, and they have to know what's going on if I'm going to hold them to those rules. And so I do, if I could make one, the only call I would redo on the entire weekend, obviously with the Ralph car, it is what it is, but the only call that I can control, that I will take full responsibility for, not my techs, I'll take the responsibility for it, is loading those 4 cars. I should have come up with a system that said, hey, you guys did this. There was a reason you did it. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't. I mean, and an accident is an accident. And if somebody else welds on your car, you still have to be responsible for it. But we're talking a half an inch of weld. Even though it makes a difference, there is a rule. Like I said, I told my dad. And my dad was the one that prayed, and thank you for him coming because it was a great part of the show. But I told him before we left, I said, I believe like we made justifiable and right calls. I'm not sure we made good calls in those areas. Mm-hmm. Those areas only. The rest of the calls, I would make 100% every time again. I would redo Heat 1 again. I would let the end finish just like it did again. I would everything else. I will stand behind my officials and me 100%, except on those 4 cars. I believe there would have been a better way to handle that. And again, they have my personal apology for the way it was handled. I believe that it's tough to say something's right, and yet it's wrong. It's right to the standards that there are today. Then it's time to change the standards. Mm-hmm. So we are going to. We know we have major fixes. Right. The only issues I've had in the last 3 or 4 years has been in teching and that kind of stuff. The show's been great, and I've got to change this. That it's a great. Everybody used to come to our show for the teching, and then the cars just got amazing, and now everybody's going, we're coming to your show in spite of the teching. And again, my guys stepped up. My guys did a hell of a job. They found everything they could find. Like Ryan said, if he had a list of 20 items, typically in previous years we might have found 12 of them. This year, he's saying we found 20. I'll bet we found 18. But he's saying we found 20 of them. My guys found the welds that were too big, and they felt the rules are the rules. I backed them 100%. I'm not saying I disagreed with them. I'm just saying I want to apologize to those 4 drivers for putting all that time, all that money into their cars, and to not be able to run on such a small detail. There's got to be a better system to handle that. There's got to be. On Jason Budinsky, I want to hit on that one real quick before we get into Chad's. Ryan says a small washer. Here's what our officials found inside the frame. The rule is Brian said there's not a rule on it. I disagree with him. It's a very specific rule. Mm-hmm. If you want to bolt on your steering box, you get X size of tube to pass through the frame to run a bolt through. That is the only pin you can have in the frame. What Jason had a plate under the top of his frame and down to the bottom of his frame, which was then welded. It appeared that there was a bolt that basically pinched the bumper bracket and the frame with a plate on the very external side of the same size. The plate perfectly fit inside the frame. It was snug, tight within that frame, and so there was no way to ever find out without blowing a hole with our bumper bracket current rule. Their bumper brackets completely wrapped the frame. There was no way to see that. We knew the plate was on the outside, and we knew it was welded to the bumper bracket. We had no idea that it was welded to an inside plate of the same size, which, if that frame is 4 inches, it would have been a full 2 inches by 4 inch plate inside the frame that was holding that on. We felt that that frame could not twist, move back there. I don't believe Jason did it on purpose. Jason was surprised when we did it. The problem with the 03s are you have to manufacture so much of it. But this one here was very black and white. We showed him the rule. Ryan's was done identically how the rules reads to do. And so it was one of those horrible call to make, but I'll stand behind my officials completely on that one.
Overall, what's the feedback been so far on the show? I mean, you said you got a lot of messages and stuff that said that everybody was pretty content with it, and it was a pretty strong show. How about from the driver's standpoint? What's their feedback been?
We pissed a lot of them off. And that's not my goal. I know without the drivers, I won't have a show. My goal is to run a fair show as I can. And I told the drivers on the first night, don't make my officials determine the show. We don't want to. I promise you, we don't give. I'm like you, Ben, and everybody else. We don't give a shit who wins this show. I don't care. I want a good show because it's cost me the same exact as anything else. I'm telling you what, everything we're doing for CJ and Cordell and Teddy and Brett have done for me, you won't find 4 more loyal drivers to our shows. Mm-hmm. You watch the internet, they stick up for us. If you look at my past 5 years of points, 2 or 3 of them have been in the top 5 every year. Mm-hmm. They are true friends of mine. But at the time we made the decision, I felt it was right.
Right.
Looking back at it, hindsight's 20/20. We can always second guess everything. Hindsight's 20/20. The problem was what that decision was. It was letter of the law, and if we would have been letter of the law on Thursday and Friday during inspections, I would have probably been okay with it.
Right.
But we worked with drivers, we worked with things all weekend long. Then to get that picky on Saturday when there's that much on the line, after you look at the drivers who didn't make the feature, to ask 3 of them to sit out and disqualify one of them at the end of it, not necessarily the best call. So to get drivers to trust us again, I mean, it's going to be tough, but I have a lot of drivers saying, hey, right or wrong, at least you held your ground. You did what you thought was right. What are we going to do to fix it? And that's what we're saying is we've got to come up with a system that says, if you do this, the penalty is this. If you do this, the penalty is this. It should not be either you're in or you're out. When there's 6 months and 400 hours of welding in these cars, in or out is a tough thing. That's a super tough thing. We got to find a better system. So that's my goal, is to find a better system. I also want to find an advocate for the drivers. We're trying that down in Louisville, Kentucky on September 29th. Daryl Monroe is partnering with me, and he is going to be a driver for the drivers. This is the type of call that would have been made by a Daryl. This is the type of stuff that, I don't like making these calls because I am spending 23 hours trying to fix a dirt track that's a train wreck. I'm trying to make sure the production's ready. I'm not saying I have to find help in this department and more help that can make that final call, but know that, that weld really isn't going to matter. Or yes, it is. My officials were not wrong. For the set of rules that I gave them, they did their job 100%. I just need to write the rule. I just need to rewrite the rules. So I believe Louisville will be. It's going to be a different approach, and I do not believe teching will be a problem. I don't believe that pre and post tech will be a problem. We're going to make some huge changes. I'm going to sit down with Daryl, and we're going to work through this stuff. So my officials, like I said, I'm proud of them for the job they did. I told every one of them at the start of the show, if stuff kept getting by us, every one of their jobs were on the line. And I do not want to hear again, you know what? Everything is by you guys. You just selectively pick what you want to. I believe we treated them all as fairly as we could. Some guys chose not to cut. Some guys chose to cut. And we appreciate what they did and go from there. The cars that went into the feature were completely unhurt for the most part because the track didn't allow them to be hurt.
Right.
So there was no reason to not drive wide open in the feature. And so it was a good feature. 34 minutes for $60,000. I'd like to know where else that's been done in the country. These guys finished it in 34 minutes. Our guess was an hour and a half.
Right.
And they finished it in 34 minutes because we pushed the pace, and we warned them on the podcast before the show. We warned them in every driver's meeting that we're going to push the pace. So I was proud of my crew. I couldn't say enough good things about my crew. I'd say 3/4 of them did not go to bed Friday night trying to fix that track. But yet, we're still on the burn the next day. We're still making good calls for the most part. We're still doing what we did. And I tell you what, we drew out a plan Friday night when the first car dropped. And by the time finals got there and we rolled it the second time, that track was as hard as any other Blizzard Bash track. And for us to turn that dirt that fast, I had hundreds of messages saying, unbelievable, great reaction time, nice job. So, proud of my crew and what they did.
That's good. We covered most of that stuff pretty thoroughly. What did you tell the drivers in the drivers' meeting in terms of the expectations with the shot clock and how the hits were going to be, I guess, counted or judged? I guess judged is a better way of saying it.
Basically, what we told them from the day they walked on that property was, we understand this is a big money show. Part of this is my fault, Chris. If I would have put the prize money at $10,000, $9,000, $8,000, $7,000, all the way down to $1,000,
right,
it's nearly the same amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
But when you go $30,000 to $8,000,
mm-hmm.
it sets an expectation that if I make one dumb shot, I get hung up, I do anything wrong, I'm out $30,000. I have to drive conservatively.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
We knew that mentality was coming in. We said from the day one, these are the same as Blizzard Bash cars with one, possibly two whole runs not on them. And the way the track went the first night, they were basically going in Blizzard Bash fresh, plated and locked in into the feature. And we told them, if you are not making aggressive hits, we are not resetting your clock. At 15 cars, somewhere around 15 cars, I'd have to watch the video again. It's going to be probably 12 to 15 cars left. We went out and warned the drivers we were having issues with and said, this is it. Pick it up. We're not going to do this tonight. At about 7 or 8 cars, we went out. It would have been 7 cars because the Martin Brothers, 8 cars because the Martin Brothers were both still in. We went out and warned them all again. This is it. I'm telling you, if you don't pick it up, we warned the problem drivers that were, they're phenomenal drivers, the utmost respect for them. But we had set a precedent that it wasn't going to happen at this show. Now, do we count a driver driving aggressively, sitting back for 20 seconds or bumping around for 20 seconds and then every 40 seconds really smoking somebody down track? No, to me, that's make an aggressive hit every minute. But to slide your brakes, to be very selective, be very conservative in every shot, we were resetting the clock, and we probably shouldn't have been even at that point. When we got down to 5 drivers, I went out and warned every one of them one more time. I said, if you do not make a very aggressive shot from here on out, your cars are all running fantastic. At that point, there might have been 1 or 2 tires down on all of them, or 2 tires total out of all the cars, and every car was running fantastic. We knew Jason was fighting steering because his power steering pump went out. So we knew he was fighting steering and doing what he could do, but we weren't making any excuses. We went out and said, pick it up, or we're not resetting your clock. If you're not making it, we told all 5 of them, and you can ask all 5 of them, I'm screaming in their window at them. And so after that, we did not reset a clock unless I put 2 officials on every car. Mm-hmm. And if those 2 officials did not agree it was an officially hard hit, they did not reset the clock. Thus the Chad Markley thing. I had 2 clocks on Chad Markley, and they were 5 seconds apart. And we went off the later clock at the minute. Did Chad make some hits within that minute? Absolutely he did. But they were not aggressive whatsoever. And that's where, I don't want to get into it until Chad gets on the phone.
Yep.
But that's where the end of the show definitely went awry. But what fueled a lot of that was the calls I made before the finals. Like dumping gasoline on the crowd because nobody felt I was fair with them, which in hindsight I probably wasn't. So we dumped fuel all over this crowd, And when Chad Markley showed emotion, it was like throwing a match up into fuel.
Sure.
And so that's it. Everything was like the arena said about the dirt. It was the perfect storm. And so when we held to our rules again at the end of the Derby, which I feel is still a right call, it is a rule. We held to it. I'll have 100 people tell me I made a good call. I'll have 100 people tell me I had a bad call. And it depends on if they're friends or foes. And I'll stand behind my call 100% on that one. And I look forward to talking to Chad about it tonight. But that's where the officials were. And again, we did not go off the early clock that they had. We went off the later clock, and it was 36 is out on time. I said, let me do this one. It's not going to be pretty. So that's when I went down, broke the stick, and Chad and I went and chatted in the other room.
We're going to do a quick break here. We're going to run through our last little bit. I'm going to get Chad on the line. We'll get into this a little bit deeper in just a minute.
Kings of Old School returns for their second installment of Spring Chaos, June 11th and 12th at the Broome County Fairgrounds in Whitney Point, New York. Last year, it was Jonathan Furr coming away with the inaugural title. The show promises as much action as last year, springing into a 2-day format for the first time. Rules and payout are posted online at kingsofoldschool.net. The Kings of Old School team event will be center stage again, moving to the Delaware County Fairgrounds in Walton, New York, as part of the Kings of Old School Regional Championship program September 4th and 5th. The county and event winners from around the Northeast will be eligible to run during this championship event. For more details, again, jump online and visit kingsofoldschool.net or visit the group on Facebook.
It's Truck Month at Layton Hills Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. You can get the best deals of the year on all of our Ram trucks in inventory. Plus, if you're a current or past customer at Layton Hills, we're offering you an additional $250 customer loyalty rebate. And if you live in northern Utah, we have an additional $250 Great Neighbor rebate too. So during Truck Month, we have a new 2016 Ram 1500 SLT Crew Cab. And after dealership discounts, customer cash, and Truck Month rebate, it's yours for only $39,115. We're going to take advantage of these savings during Truck Month at Layton Hills Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram.
Just wanted to make a quick mention again of the Full Throttle Racing Spring Showdown, the full-size division, paying $1,250 to win, $500 for second, $200 for third place. Compacts, $1,000 on the line for them, $300 for second, $100 for third, $15 a person to get an FTR Spring Showdown again. That is the Boonville Oneida County Fairgrounds in Boonville, New York. And Chad is not answering. Well, best laid plans, right, Brian?
Absolutely. Try to call again.
I've tried twice. I sent him messages. This is the same number that I called him on this morning when I talked to him. So let's see. I know. So I don't know if that is by design or what that might be. Ben, I mean, you had a chance to get down trackside. I know you had your head up underneath a bunch of those different cars. What'd you think of the cars that actually getting the chance to participate in Blizzard Bash, or excuse me, in Blizzard Bash, in Capital City Carnage 2016 and be under the ramps?
Oh, I had, like I said, I had an awesome experience down there. I mean, I don't know, whether I made a difference or not, I don't know. I mean, I felt that, I get along, a great group of guys. I mean, Tech guys, a great group of guys. We have fun every time, every event I come to, and I just whether my role was, whether what I said, was or pointed out or whatever was applied. I don't know. I mean, I kind of hope I contributed a little bit down there, but for the most part, I mean, it's like I said, I have a good time down there. I have a great group of drivers. All the drivers. I mean, like I mentioned when Ryan was on the phone, that they're always curious on seeing a new face underneath their cars, when they're on the ramp. But But no, just chalk it up for me, another great experience, another great time. Like I said, I hope I was, what word am I looking for?
Adequate?
Yeah,
you're more than adequate, Ben. We appreciate it.
That's just, that's just.
Ben is sharp in what he looks for. He sees things, and the nice thing with Ben is standing, most of the time he's standing at the corner of the ramp, and you see things from a little bit different angle, a little bit different, perspective, because he sees different builds all the time. And so that's the nice thing, bringing East Coast, West Coast cars together. Ben saw it a little bit different than our guys did, and I mean, it was an eye-opener for him, and definitely an eye-opener for us on certain things where we got to talk through more things. And, I believe that's, he's one of the reasons that allowed us to pick up our tech game a little bit. And, we were trying to light a fire under our techs, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and I hope people, I don't want people to think, I was, there to be a,
Oh, that wasn't good.
There to be a placed negative person, but I mean, it's just.
You definitely weren't there to step on toes.
No,
just a different set of eyes.
I mean, that's that's.
Our guys weren't doing a great job. It was, hey.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
the car gets loaded, or this happens, or boy, this got through this year, and they beat this rule really well. Those are the things that we found very, very interesting.
Yeah. There's a few things that I was curious on, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean, like I said, I mean, you guys got final say on it, and you're more acclimated with the than I am with your rule sets, So I mean, that's I just, like you said, I mean, I look at things. People look at me sometimes and think I'm out in left field, but that's just, I look at things from a different perspective, I guess, especially when it comes to building stuff, because my gears are constantly turning on, what I can do and what I would do, and it's just like I said before, opinions. Everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got an opinion, but yeah, that's
been hit on that a couple times.
Yeah, yeah.
But thankfully, making that connection with Chad Markley joining us now on our secondary line. This is the most high-tech part of the show. We have two lines going. Try to hold my cell phone against the microphone. But Chad, man, welcome to the show.
Hello, guys.
Hey, Chad, I know when I met up with you in the hallway. First of all, thanks for the help, making sure that I didn't get my face knocked off.
No problem.
But beyond that, I know you were pretty hot there, and I told you, without an Ultimate Derby official there to follow up on some of the topics that you wanted to touch on, that it wasn't going to be right nor fair for anybody. And you're a respected guy in Kansas. You're a promoter yourself. You've been in situations where you've had to make tough calls from between cars going through inspection line to what's happening on the track itself. I know you've had a little bit of time now to calm down and you're respecting.
Not really. Not really.
Not enough, huh?
Not enough. I've had. I respect you guys. You guys do a great job. What happened this weekend, the whole show, no less than a three-ring circus. Plain and simple. From start to finish, it was. You got groups of inspectors fighting with one another, not respecting one another. I'll never work with Dinger. You need to tell Sam we'll get rid of Dinger. Dinger saying them, younger guys are no good. I don't even know where to start. My deal on the track, I don't even care about. I know in my heart I won that show. If you want to prove I won that show and he made the bad call, put it out there. Yes and no. See what the percentage is. Yes and no. Hashtag it. Text it to you, Facebook it to your guys' stuff. It'll be 90% to 10%. When I got guys in the stands telling me, hey, man, I'm not your biggest fan, but you got boned. I'm pretty sure I got boned. Ben was in the inspection line all day. Ben's been pretty quiet. Ben, I don't want to get you in trouble, but, man, take my back. I've got calls from all over the nation saying how terrible this was. And, that's my opinion, but my opinion of what happened to me doesn't matter because that's my opinion.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. The crowd matters, and the people in the crowd that pay for us to be there and put on a show, That's what's important. Sam's opinion, it doesn't matter to me because we're never going to agree on it. I know he was wrong. He might know he was wrong. I don't know. But I won't take this one laying down. I feel like I was keeping pace. I just broke Jason's tranny with a back end to front end shot. And a few seconds before that, I had the front wheels off the ground going into dials. 34 seconds from the last time I made contact with the car till I turned around. Yeah, we all had warnings. We all are veteran drivers. We're all good. We all have internal clocks in us. The end of a derby, if the other drivers aren't good enough to take you out, then now it's the officials' problem. This is no more than, it's like a prom queen thinking she's the prettiest girl on the floor when he's standing up there, but that ain't why everybody's looking at him. They're looking at him to figure out who he's going to screw next because his past is so bad that, history repeats itself, and I just really hate to see good people get drugged down, and it's all going to repeat itself. There's no way around it. I'm not here. I'm done with Blizzard Bash. I'm done with Sam Williams. I need no more friends in the Derby world. I've got some of the best friends in the freaking world.
Did we lose you?
No, I'm here.
Okay. Sam, I told you that the reason that we had everybody on together at the same time was so that you had the opportunity to rebut anything that was.
I don't care about the call. I'm there to win. The $30,000 difference makes no beans.
Well, I understand that, Chad, and
the screwing he put on other guys this whole weekend, terrible. Horrible.
Okay. Did you
be ashamed of myself?
Sam, anything? Any?
No, I completely understand where Chad's coming from as a driver. I had a call on me that I thought was questionable in Utah last year. Left there completely wound up, but at the end of the day, it's how I seen it in the car, and I completely understand where Chad's coming from. And all I can say is we'd had 2 clocks, and we had warned for aggressive hits, I guess all I can say is I'll stand behind my officials 100%. And like I said, we did make some bad calls.
I don't care about that call. That call won't matter.
Hang on 1 second, Chad. Let him finish. He'll be.
And I respect the heck out of Chad as a promoter and stuff like that. How it all went down. I guess at the end of the day, I don't care who wins my derby. Chad's done well at our shows. Chad's had some tough luck at our shows. His team's done well at our shows. His team's had some tough luck at our shows, just like every other team. And when you put that much competition, that much testosterone, that much whatever, building these cars, whatever it is, the emotions are extremely high. Now you throw $30,000 into it, and when a guy gets in the top 5 of a $30,000 show, in his mind he's already spending the money, and that added to the emotion as well. So I completely respect Chad's opinion, and I understand where he's coming from. Every promoter is going to make their mistakes, and if they don't, man, I hope they put on a show like this someday. I hope they do. And it's tough to make every right call, but like I said, we did make some tough calls over the weekend, and some that I've apologized for. But this, in my opinion, this one wasn't one of them.
So, Chad, you mentioned a couple things that the call against yourself didn't matter. Would you still be in the same boat with this much passion had the cards fallen a different way and you would come away with the win there?
You haven't known me long enough to answer that question yourself. But I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that'll answer it for you.
I don't think
will answer that question.
That's fair.
Mad as freaking hell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think. I haven't known. I've only met Chad through.
I'm a very emotional guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've only met Chad through derbies, and probably a dozen times have I ever talked to him, and it wouldn't have made a damn bit of difference if he won or lost. He's talking. I think Chad's biggest frustration, I feel, is the tech point of view of it. well, everybody in Sam knows. I mean, Sam knows exactly specifically when he was talking about the officials fighting one another. You know, when you got a head official in your, well, another one that's pretty high up. I mean, you got Dinger and Kenny about ready to swat each other underneath, and the drivers around are like, holy shit, they're supposed to be inspecting my car, and they're basically want to punch each other in the face. You know, does that directly affect the accuracy of what they're doing after that? Mm-hmm. You know,
do they get so wound up in each other that they're going to draw a harder line against the driver?
outside looking in, I mean, you know, they walk off. You know, they're gone. You know, now there's a few less guys to attack. I mean, there's a definitely, like Sam said, there's a lot of things that you know he's looking at and improve at. But I mean, my biggest question is, I think one of the major, from my perspective, mm-hmm. one of the major controversies was I'll rewind. It, you know, 03 and Newar's were allowed for a while, for what I remember. From the time I was going out there, 03s were allowed, and then they went away. Mm. And now this is the first show, right, Sam, that they're allowed back?
Yep, this is the first one.
And for me, from my perspective, for stuff that I was looking at and looking for, to me, they were primarily a large, in my eyes, that's just my opinion, in my eyes, from stuff I was looking at, were primarily, to me, the biggest issues, really.
I agree.
I mean, pretty much the 03 and I'm going to just off the top of my head, I mean, I'm just going to say 6 off the top of my head that I was using as comparison. I was using 3 or 4 to compare with, you know, 3 or 4. And that was my biggest frustration on my behalf. But once again, I was a neutral party. I don't, you know, that's just my opinion. And that was my biggest frustration when I see something that's I know is not right. And
well, the problem with the 03 is, and you're right, this is the majority of our arguments came on the 03s and the interpretation on 03, because you have to manufacture so much of that front end. And so many guys have asked us to bring them back. Figured this would be a great show to try it at. Right. Because we don't want it to affect Blizzard Bash. Now, either we have to clean up the rules, or they can't come to Blizzard Bash, one or the other, because, yes, there was absolute dissension in my text, no question. I had to take them all into a room and regroup and say, guys, get through it, get over it, and let's go. Mm-hmm. And the major problem was the interpretation on these 03s and what should and should not be allowed based on parts of the rules yet that were either unfinished, not intentionally, but just didn't know, and they were either unfinished rules or whatever. And again, at our shows, guys push every car to the nth degree, and so yeah, absolutely there was issues in my tech crew. Now, is there lots of areas I need to fix? 100% there are. Chad's exactly right. There are lots of areas in our show that needs to be fixed. We tried some new things this year, and some things were good for us, some things weren't so good for us, and it's one of those things that we just tried to get it better and better and better. But at the end of the day, for 52 cars potentially taking the track, I think we had 49 actually take the track. We paid $60,000 for 49 cars. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty good money. And so, yeah, there's, you know, you get everything we said we would do.
Wonder why maybe you only had 49 cars for that kind of money? Do I need to answer that question for you, Sam? Or, too much guessing on the rules, too much fluctuation? You know, I call and ask one thing, I get there, and the gentleman that told me I could do it that way says, you got to cut it because I made everybody else cut it. And I tell him, I'm not cutting it until you tell me that you made a mistake. And he was man enough to say he made a mistake. So I said, okay, no problem. I just wanted to hear that. No respect for drivers. The young punks in line have no respect. I mean, they want to argue. They want to get you fired up before you get to the freaking lift. It's a joke. It is. There's no respect for the vendors. I've been on the phone. You have no idea how many times my phone's ring since Saturday night from respectable, well-liked, top of the game, drivers, parts builders, you name it, people are fed up, and somebody's going to take the bull by the horns and do something about it, and it's going to come down pretty quick, and things are going to change. And I'm not being a part of the bad crap anymore. I put up with it too long. I've seen all these big shows do something goes to their head, and they think they're king of the world. They think they're this, and everybody's just looking at them like, man, you screwed up. You screwed up. You screwed too many people too many times, and the game's over. I mean, you have no idea. I don't talk second tongue. My word in the Derby world is worth 10 times what UD is right now. When I speak, people listen. When you speak, Sam, they know you're going to tell the next guy something else. You're going to butter it up and try to smooth it out and get to the next show. When Chad Markley tells his friends, they tell their friends, and it is the gospel. People get screwed at UD. Plain and simple. If anybody wants to chime in on that, text it in, call it in. Let's light up the phone lines. If you really want to feel how your drivers feel about you, you need to come in the pits instead of hiding in the damn hotel and figure out what's going on. You're not the whole problem, Sam, but it is your show. You should be in control, and you can't control what you got going on because it's too big for you. Plain and simple.
Now, Sam,
I agree with that completely. That's the reason we're trying different things like Daryl Monroe down in Louisville, Kentucky. Let me have a counterpart that's just as respected in the Derby world as Chad Markley. That's what we're doing.
He does. But you know what? Me and Daryl have conversations already, Ask him about them. I don't want you to drag another good soul through the mud. You're not dragging me down anymore, and anything in my power, I feel like I was wronged. You look on the internet, you put it out there. You guys make a little post and see if it's 90% to 10%. There's always going to be 10% haters because the guy wins too much or too lucky, or maybe they think he's driving, or maybe you beat his brother, his uncle, who knows, his sister. There's always going to be 10%. But I'd lay 1,000 to 1 that it goes 90 to 10. If you're willing to take that bet, I will take that bet with you, Sam, and you will lose it in a heartbeat.
Chad, as everybody's going to hate the big guy and go for the little guy. I get that. You're an amazing driver. You feel like you were wrong. Drivers feel like you were wrong. I completely respect that. But Chad, as we talked on the raffle car, you said, Sam, run it. None of us care. And I said, Chad, it isn't right. He goes, you said you're going to lose your butt on those raffle cars. I told you on the raffle car. I will put my name on it. You will be able to run it. Is that the conversation we had?
The only way you'll be able to run it is to let the drivers say it's okay and be 100% vote. That is what I said. I said what was done to it that we looked at did not affect that car, in my opinion. But you cannot do anything unless the drivers that are entered in this show have a 100% vote. Is that what I said or not?
That is what you said. But if that car would have taken a high-profile driver out, and then all of a sudden a picture got on the internet of what was in that car, then all I did is I was trying to screw that driver. There's a no-win situation here for you, Chad.
Hey,
so what the hell did that matter?
nobody can understand you when you guys are both talking at the same time. I'm trying very hard to juggle the cell phone so that everybody gets fair time to talk.
That's fine.
Sam was finishing a point about the raffle car.
Mm-hmm.
I just said with the raffle car.
My point with the raffle
if I let a car get in that isn't completely legal, and it's one of those deals where the drivers say it doesn't matter, in tech line they say it doesn't matter. When it comes down to Saturday night, and that raffle car driver, for whatever reason, decides that your stick is the short one, and decides to go all the way across the track and take a driver out, I guarantee you, all of a sudden, a picture's going to surface of a cheated raffle car. Sam was after that driver. Sam paid that driver to hit the high-profile driver. Sam, it's a no-win situation. So it's easier just to leave it on the trailer.
Chad, you guys are talking at the same time. What I did is I took you away so that we could finish thought from Sam. I'm going to turn you back in now so that you can get your thought out there.
Okay. Well, I don't know what Sam said, but I'll tell you the truth on the matter because right now like I said, my word's my word, and we got 1,000 people that knows both sides of the mouth comes out of Sam. So I said the raffle car was fine. What I inspected, the frame narrowing and shortening, was not going to affect the integrity of the car. I would be willing to sign off of it. We've got Teddy P over there, and he said the same thing. And my last words were, the only way I would agree to signing off of it if he takes a vote in the driver's meeting, and it is a 100% vote that the car would run and that could go on. Now, the second point of that, there is nobody in their right mind that should have ever thought to put a raffle car straight to a feature in a show like that. That is asinine. You change the outcome of the guys that support you, your whole freaking deal. You just changed the outcome of the show by putting a lucky draw into the show. It should have never even been a question. But sometimes if you follow the path of the money, you'll find the answer to the problem.
But
so,
Chad,
that's what you got to realize.
We've asked everybody that we talked to. We've asked a couple of hard questions. So I'm gonna throw this out there. Is the decision was made that if another driver had brought that raffle car and tried to get it through tech, that it would be loaded. So in turn, the decision was made, to not let it run based on that angle of it. What's your thoughts on that being some of the thought process?
That's perfectly fine. My opinion was what I just told you.
Okay.
I didn't care what happened to the damn thing. I didn't think it should have been in the feature at the beginning. If they were good enough to catch it with another driver brought it, then it could have been loaded. But what I said is, in my professional opinion, what was done to the car, the pieces I looked at, did not change the integrity of the car enough, and I would be fine with it being a raffle car. I didn't inspect it as another driver. I inspected it for a favor and for a personal, a professional opinion of what should be done with this car, because if he did not know when he bought that car that it had problems, Mike Brown has never built 100% of the rules. He's always been able to cut to get in. Why do you think all of a sudden, he turned a new leaf and it was just going to be straight to the rules?
Okay. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you back over here on the headset so you can hear Sam. You got the floor. You heard what Chad was asking.
Chad's 100% correct. Raffle cars have always gone straight to the feature with basically whoever. Most promoters that I know don't make them come to a heat or through a compy. You put them into the feature, and most shows anymore have a raffle car. So that's kind of an industry standard, and maybe if that needs to change, that needs to change. But yeah, as far as not putting it straight to the feature, okay. But no, Chad's exactly right. He did say, you know what, he did not have a problem with it, and I explained to him that, Chad, if this was any other car, I would load it. And we asked another driver, and he said, I would put it to a driver's vote. And I sat there and I said, man, this is, like Chad said, could definitely affect the outcome of my show. And if it affects the outcome of my show, and I don't care if a driver says, yes, I'm good with it, at the end of the day, if that's the car that took them out when they had a good chance of winning $30,000 and then found out it wasn't right, it would have been the same blow-up. So
right.
even drivers and other professionals are going to make questionable decisions based on I don't feel or I don't think this, because none of us can see the future.
Sure.
So, it's one of those deals of everybody makes questionable decisions in the heat of a moment, because it's easy to look back. If that would have changed the outcome of my derby, I said, man, I should have never let that dumb thing run. It wasn't worth it. By leaving it on the trailer, I can say, man, I should have let it run. It probably wouldn't have made a difference. Hindsight's always 20/20, and
yep.
and Chad did do me a favor by coming and looking at it, and I appreciate that. But even at that, we'll make questionable decisions based on how I feel or how I think, and that's it's a tough role as a promoter to say I can see the future and this is how it's going to affect the outcome.
Sure. Chad, go ahead.
Yeah. I'd just like to bring the point of view up that was noted that, yes, that car could get into UD fair shows. So, what's the difference? The fair shows should be just as good for, if you're not caring about the fair guys, the sport's done.
Am I back on, Chris?
Yep, you're back, Sam. It's you.
Okay. No, the rules specifically say you cannot stub in Capital Carnage and you cannot stub in Blizzard Bash, but you can do it at a at a fair class show, and it gives specific rules on why you can do it, and that's why it's legal in the fair class, is because you're allowed to restub in a fair class, but you are not for Blizzard Bash and Capital Carnage because of the size of the money and the size of the show. If we didn't allow restubbing at the fair class level, then nobody would have any cars by the end of the summer. So we try to keep cars coming back for fairs, and that's where we work with drivers. And we talked to a lot of drivers this weekend that are restubbing for their Iowa and their Tonganoxie shows coming up, and that we've always allowed that at the fair level.
Fair enough. Just checking. I was just curious. I've never looked at the fair rules, so I was just curious.
Yep, absolutely.
Did you have any other thoughts or anything that you wanted to put out there?
I've got plenty of thoughts, but they're all bad, and I was raised not to say bad things and never to start a fight, but it's always okay to finish it.
Okay. Well, did either of you guys have any questions?
Chad, this is Brian, and we've only talked a few times, but I kind of see a lot of myself in you in that I think we have a lot of the same personalities. And what I saw Saturday night was a guy that's ran in Derby for a long time. It was, I mean, you were the last car running in Blizzard Bash last year, and when he got out of the car, I could see the emotion, and I know what that win would have meant to you. And it's when you have the love for a sport like you do. I mean, before the show, we were standing there talking in the line, and I don't remember the exact conversation, but you told us about how for some car you had to have this bumper bracket off this year Edsel or something. Just the love that you have for the sport, and I can understand that. I mean, I grew up racing with my brother, and I know what it's like to be right there at the edge, just so close you can taste it, and to have a win like that. And it's not about the money, and it's not about the trophy. It's about you feeling the success of winning a show like that. I can understand that, and you know what? I understand why you're upset, and people were pissed off and saying that you weren't driving hard enough, and you know what? The $30,000 on the line and the trophy and all that stuff, but you wanted to win that show because you wanted to win that show, and I can understand it. And you know what? It's as a Derby fan, if you never come back to another Blizzard Bash, then I think that's going to hurt the show because you're a great driver and you're a great builder. But I can absolutely understand why you wouldn't come back, and I can also understand Sam's point of, okay, I gave the guys warnings, but I don't think there's ever going to be a agreement here.
That's why I'm saying just put it out there, put the vote deal out there. That's all I care. His opinion, my opinion. They're both biased. The problem is the few refs. If you pick different refs to watch me, I'm fine. There's a couple of the kids that, for some reason, I don't know if it's their aunt, uncle, brother, whatever, we've battled against. They don't care what I do or how hard I drive on the arena. It's never going to be good enough. It just really doesn't freaking matter. I mean, at the end of the day, I can't beat the refs. And I'm not saying I can beat the rest of the drivers at that point in time, but I had a pretty damn good chance. You bring the only wagon to a field of 50 cars for $30,000, and you're running then. I had targets on me. I was taking out cars. People were on me all freaking night. I'm not a part seller. I'm not this. I don't have. I was defending myself.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, bring it. If they got it, I'm out there. Bring it. I'm not the best by any means. If you think you're the best, you'll get beat the next day. I always try to do the best, and I always try to maintain my cool and sportsmanship because it's very important for this sport.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, when that switch gets flipped, I don't have any control. It could be 5 years from now. It could be 10 years from now. Something happens, and the switch gets flipped, and I don't know what the freak's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I'm going to quickly, Sam had a thought. Sam, go ahead. You got it.
I think the toughest thing for us was watching Chad Markley drive a Blizzard Bash. what a amazing performance. Chad stuffed everything on the track. I mean, it was insane to watch as he's waving out the window, however many thousands of RPMs, piling up this car into that car, into this car, into that car, knowing the expectation had been set of, we've seen Chad Markley big money driver, we've seen Chad Markley Blizzard Bash driver. There's two different Chad Markleys that has completely drive a different race. And that's the tough thing, is we said this is Blizzard Bash expectations. This is not big show expectations. We don't want an hour and 20-minute feature. Maybe we should. Maybe we should go to that. But and maybe that's what we have to do at our big money shows, is say we're just going to step back and know that these are just going to be nice, long features. But we've seen the standard set at Blizzard Bash, and that's why we worked 20 hours to bring that track back around. It's because I said, guys, I have busted my tail to get this to a Blizzard Bash track. Now drive them Blizzard Bash style. And that's the expectation that went in. And again, the way Chad had decided to drive his race at Blizzard Bash, it wouldn't have worked. But it's one of those things. Maybe it was the expectation, the way Chad had driven Blizzard Bash, to set the expectation on how everybody should drive at this show. Because I'm telling you, that video is amazing to watch Chad pile up the entire track into the dirt.
Blizzard Bash ended on a crazy finish.
Well, also Blizzard Bash is a team format. So at one point, Chad's got other teammates out there, so he might not be as decisive in you know what I mean? If it was me, I'm confident I got at least one other guy possibly, or at one point you got three other guys. If you make a stupid shot or you get yourself hung up, somebody's going to whack you. In this situation, I can definitely understand, just like we commented how Ryan and Jason and numerous other drivers drove. They were picking their shots, and it's a hard ass, and I know because I'm an official all the time. I'm a flagman, everything else. That is a hard ass decision to depict whether it's an aggressive shot or not, because in a driver's, when you're in that car and you're down that far and you just battled your ass through this whole feature, and you're like, holy shit, this could be possible with the biggest bullseye there is in the arena, and them shots might be to the driver. Them shots are aggressive, and that's just excuse the language, a fucked up world out there, because you don't know. You think you're being aggressive, and potentially somebody else don't think you're an aggressive, and it's whack. It's I know. Bad.
But this is the thing too, and I think
the top five. I know we warned them. The top five.
Yeah.
Because we understand there's all kinds of people out there that could take the back end of your car off if you decided to go for a full track shot. We get that.
Yeah.
But top five, we're saying, okay, now we're going to go to what we've warned about.
Right.
And we've warned about it. And then that's why we started to enforce it, top five. Mm-hmm. Before then, we were resetting on pretty much every shot.
Right.
Whether it was deemed aggressive, non-aggressive, what it was. If a driver was making contact and decent contact, we were resetting. But at top five, we said, okay, guys, this is done. This is done. Now let's turn them up. There's like 5 of you left, and I said, we're in the big money. It's time to go.
Okay, so Brian.
But the thing is too is Chad was last year at Blizzard Bash. I think Chad will agree with this. Chad was driving hard, and then Chad was suddenly outnumbered, and Chad changed his driving style. And regardless of how that finish ended up, Chad wasn't driving the same way at the end of that show he was at the beginning and the middle of that show. Chad, you agree with that?
I believe that Chad was being more selective in his shots, but every shot was to cripple the other opponents. Mm-hmm. It wasn't. Chad was a little bit in survival mode, but was still pretty aggressive. And we've watched that video a number of times, and Chad was still being aggressive. When Chad went into a little bit, in my opinion.
The problem, gentlemen, I don't have 500 and 600 horsepower. I can't blow the ceiling out of the place, and you don't know when I'm aggressive, because all you see is my car in the aftermath, and no girls, no attention.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. I don't have the horsepower in the motor and the noise.
Yeah, and you had steam. You were pushing steam. You were pushing steam. Whether that makes a difference, And I agree with Chad. He's not running a pulling truck motor.
No,
it's
on that topic, right? Yeah.
But I mean, Chad, do you agree with my assessment of your Blizzard Bash run? I mean, you were driving hard in the feature for a while, but I mean, towards the end when you were getting outnumbered, you had to change your driving style to protect yourself, obviously, but you were still going after guys, but
it was fine there when I backed it off. I didn't have nobody coming after me. Then I started getting more selective in shots.
Yep.
I'm a driver. I'm a veteran driver.
Oh, absolutely.
I can't do it every time. I can't go out there and put a show on for you, Sam. I can't go out there and wave at people every time. I love putting a show on at Topeka. It's my state.
Yep. No,
a lot of people don't like me in this state, the way I drive, the way I win, but they respect what I do. When you've got guys in the arena from other states coming and telling you, man, I'm not your biggest fan, but you just got screwed. And these are guys that don't like me. I know they don't like me. We speak, we tolerate one another. They don't like me because they know there's a good chance I'm going to knock them out the next time we're in the arena. And they don't like me, and they tell me this. And calls from Ohio, calls from Arkansas, calls from you have no idea. I know more people in the Derby world than damn near Brian Merritt. I mean, it's bad. It is bad. I took a hosing, and it was over a couple refs that did not like me, have never liked me, always been shitty with me through inspection. There's no more to be said. It is out of control, and Sam does not have control, nor do I think he'll gain it. And I hope to God Daryl Monroe does not let his good name get dragged through the mud, as well as you guys. I hope you guys don't take the bait and let another set of good names that's trying to do something wonderful for this sport get drugged down by the prom queen that's dancing, thinking they're the prettiest gal on the floor is why everybody's talking about them, but really they're wondering who's going to get screwed next by them. Right. That's all I'm going to say.
Chad, I'm gonna leave you on the line and give Sam a chance to. He had a couple points that he wanted to jump in with. We're getting close on time, so this is probably going to be one of the last times around the table. I'm going to leave you on the line with the headset so that you can hear it. Go ahead, Sam. You got it.
And I got one more.
No, basically it comes down to I don't expect everybody to put on a show every time, but every 30 to 40 seconds we expect a hit, and that's what it came down to. Is we didn't feel that there was a hit every 30 to 40 seconds. There wasn't even a hit it within a minute, and he says that it came down to a couple officials not liking him. If you knew the man that had the clock on him, I promise you it's not the case. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter who it was, but I promise you I would trust that man with my life because I have many times. And so it's the person who had the clock on him, I would never second guess in a second. And the second clock on him is, again, nobody that has any issue with Chad Markley. I guarantee it. And I trust them. And when they made the call, I backed it 100%. And Chad, I completely understand that you were frustrated and you feel that you got screwed and other drivers got screwed. And I apologize for that. Hopefully we get better. And if we don't, then I guess at this point we've had a fun run in the demolition derby world, and we've tried to raise the bar. And maybe at this point, I don't know. We're going to try to change things if we can. And if we're not the right promoter for the sport, then I'm perfectly fine letting somebody else take the reins for a while and take the beating that every promoter takes and gets ran out of this sport. And I hope that we can change it, and I hope that we can continue to grow it. And that's what my goal is. Because every derby we get better. And this derby here, I said it was one of our worst derbies in 10 years. And just for a multitude of reasons. I've never, and Chad, you are right, we lost control of that crowd at the end of the show. And I don't believe I've lost complete control of my company, but I agree with you that if major changes don't happen here pretty soon, we will be done. And I know that. And we are addressing it as fast as we can. And we've addressed it with the arena and the dirt and all that stuff, but that was a minor factor. The rest, we shot ourselves in the foot. But I still will back this call 100%. And then the other things that's happened with the other drivers, I've talked to some of them and tried to talk to them, and we're going to try to make it better. And at the end of the day, we're all human, but I don't accept a failure. You can ask anybody in my family. This show was unacceptable, 100% unacceptable, and I'm hoping that we can make the changes to make it better. And Chad, I'm sorry that you felt like that you got on the wrong end of that deal. And like I said, the officials who had the clock, I'd trust them with anything, and I promise you it was nothing personal.
Final thought, Chad?
Yep. All of America, just take a look at the video and post your comments right to UD. And I think Sam will realize that you can't, people don't like the way I drive, but a lot of people respect me for a lot of reasons. One, the passion for the sport, passion for the safety in the sport, and the passion to be an honest promoter. Just go ahead and peek at the videos, and I accept all. I don't care. I can take my beating if I'm wrong. I'll be the first one to admit. I'm a big enough man to admit when I'm wrong. I was not in the wrong this time. Take a peek at the videos, America, and just hashtag Chad Markley, #1, capital Carnage, the winner that did not get the win. And I think the internet will blow up. This thing will go viral, and Sam will finally come to the realization that it was a very, very bad choice. If he thinks I got a passion to win, he has not seen the passion that I have to make somebody fail for the right reasons. I'm not going to get into it for the wrong reasons. Revenge is not the deal. It is for the betterment of the sport, and that is what I'm about, and it's about to come unglued.
Well, Chad, I appreciate you coming on and your thoughts and coming on and sharing them with us. I'm glad that we kept it mostly civil as everybody had their back and forth. So I apologize for anybody at home that was a little bit confused on how everything was going. We're trying to make two phones work on a system that's set up for one. Chad, again, appreciate you coming on the show. And
I appreciate it, guys. I appreciate it very much. You guys are class act, and I only go crazy about once every 4 or 5 years, so everybody, I'll be safe for a while.
All right. All right, Chad, I'm going to go ahead and let you go.
All right, thank you.
See you, Chad.
There goes Chad Markley. Challenging night. Sam, I had one last question. Oh, I'm calling Chad back. My phone tried to call him back. We've gone back and forth a lot of it. I hope you feel as though that it was fair. I know that you have tried to address a couple times on the topics of what Chad was touching on himself. At the end of the day, we can't go back in time and undo stuff. We can only move forward. So as long as everything holds true to the plan, hopefully time, as it proves so often to be, is the great equalizer, and the plans that you've outlined, and you kind of focused on the stuff that Chad was focused on. Likewise, those changes come to pass as you've already hoped to line up, and we can see Ultimate Derby holding derbies with Chad Markley in the field again.
Yeah, again, I apologize. Chad is as upset as he is, and I can understand. I love Chad's passion. And what's crazy is if there's a guy that I will call a lot to find out, hey, we're going to change this or we're going to do this, what do you think of this? I respect him as another promoter. Mm-hmm. And that's what's crazy is I know Chad's had to make that tough call. Driver's door shots, time shots, all those are calls that nobody likes to make.
Right.
I said with the amount of tension that was going into the future, we will have a fight somewhere at the end of this thing. There's too much money on the line, and there's too much between first and second. And and I was warned of it weeks before the event of veteran drivers calling me and just saying, hey, beware. We've seen this go really negative. And when you have a huge drop-off from first to second, that is one of the biggest lessons we've learned in this. If we go 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, okay, the difference between first and third is $2,000.
Right.
It's not, $15,000.
Sure.
And so it's, there's a lot of changes that we're going to make, and I try to treat this as a business. I have passion for Demolition Derby. Me and my kid are going to run Utah in 2 weeks, just as a father-son two-man team out there. I mean, you've seen my son drive. We're just as passionate about this. But at the end of the day, we are trying to make our company better. We're trying to do things. I'm not saying we didn't make some mistakes. I'll be the first one to say, Bill, like I said, one of the worst shows we've done in 10 years. And it was just, we were fighting it from the word go. And none of us had fun. Crew didn't have fun. Anybody, we put on a show. We got through it. it's like it's like everybody's days at work.
I have
Sometimes you have a winning day to work, and sometimes you don't.
I appreciate you hanging out with us tonight for the duration of everything. I missed one question that was sent in on Facebook. I had my screen minimized, and I didn't get a chance to get to it. At the end of it, did your official feel that Ryan was holding Chad, and did that have an outcome on the shot clock?
We did not feel that Ryan was holding Chad. And again, that's a video I would love to watch.
Sure.
I was on the other end of the track for me.
Sure.
And it did, of course, it had an outcome on the shot clock because the clock was running. And the clock is from hit to hit, aggressive hit to aggressive hit. The crazy thing is the official is counting down over the radio. If Chad would have just hit Brett Clemens on the way by, he would have been fine.
Okay.
Instead of coming down, making the circle to survey the situation, if he would have hit Brent on the way by, after he'd gotten out, he'd done whatever he's doing, as he's driving by Brent, the first official says, time is out as he's running by him. The second official is going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As Chad turns the corner, 36 is out.
Okay.
So
there's that.
I don't know if it did, if Ryan was truly holding him or not. I'll watch it on the video.
Yep.
And if so, that's our official's fault for not backing them off.
Sure.
But again, anytime you can have a shot, if you know your internal clock is running and you know you're running on short on time, man, take the shot. You don't know how many times we've seen drivers come out of a hole knowing they'll smoke their buddy because they know that our minute is a minute and 101 is out.
Yep.
And I mean, you've seen it so many times where they'll hit somebody right up in the door and look up and be like, I'm good, right? I'm good.
Down to last
Yep, you're good. You have 3 seconds left. And so, I mean, it's one of those that when you drive by the shot, and it's a chance you're taking.
All right. I think we've covered pretty much everything. I don't think that there's necessarily any conclusion or resolution that we're going to draw tonight other than I think it's sufficient to say that Chad had a chance to share his thoughts. I hope, Sam, you feel like you had a chance to share your thoughts. Time is the only thing that's going to tell us anything more from here. Sam, man, I appreciate you coming on and hanging out with us on the show and talking a little bit about Capital City Carnage. I enjoyed your time out there. There was a lot of good that happened out there, but I also hope that tonight's effort is interpreted as some good as well.
Absolutely. We can only get better, and criticism is good, no matter how we take it. And as long as we learn from it and don't take it defensively, we're good. And that's 100% how we've taken it. So we've learned, and I mean, we get positive criticism and some negative criticism at every event, and we try to learn from it and we make it better. And so hopefully we can continue to get better. And I respect Chad as a driver and as a promoter more than most people will ever know. And we try to never make a personal decision on it. And I don't believe that anyone was held personally for anything this weekend. We made the decisions that we thought were right at the time we made them. And so hopefully we just get our company better and keep growing and moving forward. And I wish Chad all the best luck the rest of the summer with his events that he has coming up. And, hopefully we don't have to make a lot of tough calls.
Sounds good to me. Thanks again, Sam.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see you later on. There goes Sam Williams closing up episode number 130. And we burned through 2 phones tonight, just in case anybody. That's what I said. Ben left to, I believe, probably go get a drink of water. Your mouth was looking dry. I'm sure that's what you went for. But I had him grab another.
Never mind. I'll leave it alone.
I had him grab another phone down there, and you heard the feedback there momentarily as I was in the process of switching phones. So, Brian's been busy on his phone over there. I imagine your battery's about dead. Ben, I mean, we've hit on pretty much everything I think we need to hit on.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think the major frustration.
I'm going to tell you right now that we got like 2 minutes before they start knocking down the door. so go ahead.
Well, I could give a flying shit because I want to say this. I think the major though, everybody's going to focus on the money.
It's not about money with Chad.
The focal point of this, I think, and Chad's frustration, and a lot of frustration in the shows, is it comes down to the interpretation and the actual where the line is drawn as a blatant rule breakage.
Right. We talked about it in the airport.
And how it's what word am I looking for now? basically, and how it's handled.
Yeah,
Okay,
the enforcement.
Yeah, I mean, time and time again, you hear if it's a blatant disregard of the rule, the hammer's coming down, you're done, you're loaded. Now we're talking. Sam mentioned about talking, possibly, these bigger shows doing a penalty system. In my opinion, that could work. Or as a builder myself, I'd be like, hell yeah. If that's the case, then I'll overbuild the shit out of it. And, depending on what the penalties are, I'm only going to get penalized, say it's a $30,000, I'm going to get, or say $8,000, I'm going to get penalized $3,000. Is that going to push more people to overbuild? I think there just needs to be a fine line of what's right and what's wrong.
Not getting loaded.
Because I think that's a major frustration. That's a frustration I've been hearing. So I got told to shut up. So we're done. That's all right.
I'm sorry.
We're done.
It's a great point, but if we don't stop now, then we're gonna just get shut off. I just that's gonna do it for this edition of the Crash Course. Appreciate everybody listening with us. We'll see you next time.
The Crash Course Podcast is brought to you in part by DerbyParts.com. The 2015 Wadena Grand Slam. Boat Lockwood Motorsports and the 2015 Keystone Nationals. Scioppa Racing and ScioppaRacing.com. Ultimate Derby and Blizzard Bash 2015. Demo Derby Masters. Reckless Abandon Derby Apparel at RecklessAbandonGear.com. And Derby Inc. Magazine. Live it, breathe it, be it, Derby Inc. This is the Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast, recorded live at the FingerLinks1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York.